My name is Maya Reeves, and I'm 26 years old. Last Thursday, I sat in a conference room watching my older brother pitch my business idea to a millionaire investor. He stood there in his expensive suit, using my words, my research, my vision like they belonged to him. I'd spent 2 years building this concept from nothing, working nights after my day job, surviving on instant noodles and hope. But when the investor leaned forward and said, "This is brilliant. I want to meet the real founder," everything changed. My brother's face went pale, because the real founder was sitting right there, introduced as his assistant. Before I tell you how my own family tried to steal my future and how I took it back, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Subscribe if you've ever been overlooked by the people who should have believed in you first. Growing up, my brother Marcus was always the chosen one. 3 years older than me, he was the son my parents paraded around like a trophy. He played varsity basketball, dated the popular girls, and coasted through school on charm rather than effort. My parents owned a small accounting firm in Portland, and from the time Marcus could walk, they groomed him to take it over. Every dinner conversation revolved around his future, his opportunities, his potential. I was just Maya, the quiet daughter who liked computers and spent too much time alone in her room. Nobody asked about my dreams because nobody thought I had any worth discussing. That should have prepared me for what came later, but somehow, I still believed family meant something. My parents never understood technology. To them, the internet was where you checked email and paid bills. When I told them at 16 that I wanted to study software development, my father laughed. "That's a hobby, not a career," he said, cutting his steak with precise movements. My mother nodded in agreement. "Maybe you could do something with computers at the firm. Data entry, perhaps." Marcus smirked from across the table. "Let her play with her toys, Dad. She'll figure out reality eventually." I stopped talking about my interests after that. I learned to keep my head down, my ambitions quiet. I got accepted to Portland State University for computer science, paying my own way with scholarships and a part-time job at a coffee shop. My graduation 4 years later was attended by my roommate Claire and her parents. My family had a scheduling conflict. The idea came to me 2 years ago during a particularly frustrating week at work. I'd landed a job as a junior developer at a marketing agency, but I spent most of my time fixing other people's mistakes and sitting through meetings where men repeated my suggestions and got praised for them. I was tired, burnout, and searching for something that felt like mine. That's when I noticed the problem. Small businesses were drowning in customer data, but had no affordable way to analyze it. The existing software was either too expensive or too complicated for regular people to use. I stayed up all night sketching out a solution, a simple, intuitive platform that would give small business owners the insights they needed without requiring a computer science degree. By morning, I had the framework for DataWise. I spent every spare moment for the next 18 months building DataWise. I taught myself new programming languages through YouTube tutorials at 2 a.m. I tested prototypes with local business owners who let me analyze their customer data for free. I lived off rice and beans, skipped social events, and watched my savings account dwindle to double digits. Claire would find me asleep at my laptop, code still running on the screen. "You're going to burn out," she warned me more than once. But I couldn't stop. For the first time in my life, I was creating something that mattered, something that could change lives. When I finally had a working beta version, I cried. Not sad tears, but the kind that come when you realize you're capable of more than anyone ever told you. I didn't tell my family about DataWise. Not at first, anyway. Past experience had taught me that sharing my victories just invited them to diminish those victories or ignore them entirely. But when I landed my first 3 paying clients, small businesses that saw immediate results from my platform, I felt brave enough to mention it at Sunday dinner. "I've been working on something," I said quietly, pushing pasta around my plate. My mother barely looked up. "That's nice, dear." Marcus was scrolling through his phone. My father was mid-story about a difficult client. I tried again, louder this time. "It's a software platform for small businesses. I have paying customers now." That got Marcus's attention. He looked up, eyebrows raised. "You built something people actually pay for?" The surprise in his voice stung more than mockery would have. My father set down his fork, finally interested. How much are they paying? I told him about my pricing model, the monthly subscriptions, the positive feedback I'd received. For once, I had their complete attention. How many clients? Marcus asked, leaning forward. 3 so far, but I have 5 more in the trial phase. My father and Marcus exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. That's actually impressive, my father admitted slowly. Have you thought about scaling it? I had, of course. I'd thought about nothing else for months. I explained my growth strategy, my marketing plan, my vision for where DataWise could go. They listened, really listened, for the first time in years. When I left that night, I felt something dangerous bloom in my chest. Hope. Maybe they finally saw me. Maybe things were changing. Marcus called me 3 days later. Hey, Maya. I've been thinking about your software thing. I was at my desk, debugging code. DataWise, I corrected. Right, DataWise. Listen, I mentioned it to some business contacts, and there's real interest. But you're going to need help taking this to the next level. I felt a flutter of excitement mixed with caution. What kind of help? He explained that he knew investors, people with money, who funded promising startups. He had connections I'd never access on my own. But here's the thing, he continued. These guys don't take meetings with solo developers. They want to see a team, a business structure. Let me help you pitch this. I know how to talk to these people. I hesitated. Something felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint what. I can learn to pitch, I said. Marcus laughed, not unkindly. Maya, you're brilliant with code. But selling? That's my thing. Let me do what I'm good at. Against my better judgment, I agreed. Marcus said he'd help me prepare a pitch deck, something professional that investors would respect. Just send me everything, he said. All your research, your client data, your financial projections. I'll package it properly. I spent a week compiling 2 years of work into detailed documents. Market analysis, competitive research, technical specifications, growth projections, everything I'd built from scratch. I sent it to Marcus on a Tuesday night, along with a note thanking him for believing in me. He responded with a thumbs-up emoji. Over the next 2 weeks, I barely heard from him. When I called to ask about the pitch deck, he was always busy, always in a meeting. Trust me, he kept saying. I'm working on it. Finally, 3 weeks after I'd sent him everything, he called. I got us a meeting, he announced. Gregory Hartman. He's a venture capitalist who's invested in 3 companies that went public. This is huge, Maya. The meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday at 2 p.m. Marcus told me to dress professionally, but not to worry about preparing anything. I'll handle the presentation, he said. You just need to be there to answer technical questions if they come up. The morning of the meeting, I changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple navy dress and blazer. I reviewed my notes, practiced explaining the technical architecture, and tried to calm the anxious flutter in my stomach. Marcus picked me up at 1:30 p.m. He was wearing a charcoal suit I'd never seen before, his hair perfectly styled. Ready? He asked, flashing his confident smile. I nodded, clutching my laptop bag. We drove to a downtown office building, all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed money. In the elevator, Marcus straightened his tie. Let me do the talking, he said. Just follow my lead. The conference room was elegant and intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a polished table reflected the afternoon light, and expensive-looking chairs surrounded it like sentries. Gregory Hartman stood when we entered. He was in his 50s, silver hair, sharp eyes, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent. Marcus, he said, shaking my brother's hand firmly. Good to see you again. Again? They knew each other? Marcus turned to me with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. This is Maya, my assistant. She handles the technical side. Assistant. The word hit me like cold water. Not co-founder, not partner, not even colleague. Assistant. Gregory shook my hand briefly, already turning his attention back to Marcus. Shall we begin? I stood there, frozen, as my brother opened his laptop and pulled up a presentation. My presentation. My research, my data, my words, all branded with a logo I'd never seen before. At the top of every slide, in bold letters, founded by Marcus Reeves. I couldn't breathe. I watched Marcus click through slides I'd created, explaining concepts I'd developed, using phrases I'd written in my notes. He spoke smoothly, confidently, like he'd lived and breathed this project for 2 years instead of 3 weeks. The market gap is significant, Marcus said, gesturing at a chart I'd made at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. Small businesses are desperate for affordable analytics tools. Gregory nodded, impressed. And you've already secured clients? Marcus smiled. 5 paying customers, 8 in trial phase. He'd even updated my numbers without telling me. I wanted to scream, to interrupt, to tell Gregory Hartman the truth. But my voice had disappeared. I sat in my chair, labeled as an assistant, watching my brother steal my future in real time. When Marcus paused for questions, Gregory leaned back in his chair. This is solid work. Really impressive. My brother practically glowed. Thank you. I've put everything into this. Gregory flipped through the printed deck Marcus had provided. Walk me through the technical architecture, he said. How did you build the data processing engine? Marcus's smile faltered. Just for a second, but I saw it. Well, it's fairly standard, he began, using vague words that meant nothing. Gregory's eyes narrowed slightly. Standard how? What language did you write it in? What's your database structure? Marcus glanced at me, panic flashing across his face. Maya can explain the technical details better than I can. She implemented my vision. I sat there, silent. Part of me wanted to help him, to smooth over his ignorance like I'd smoothed over family awkwardness my whole life. But a larger part of me, the part that had been invisible for 26 years, stayed quiet. Gregory turned to me, really looking at me for the first time. You built this. I met his gaze and nodded. Yes. The air in the room shifted. Gregory set down the pitch deck and leaned forward, his full attention now on me. Tell me about it, he said. Not a request, a command. I glanced at Marcus. His jaw was tight, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. He gave me the smallest shake of his head, a warning. But something inside me snapped. I'd been quiet long enough. I opened my laptop and pulled up the actual code, not the sanitized slides Marcus had stolen. The platform uses Python for the backend. I began, my voice steadier than I expected. I built a custom algorithm that processes customer data in real time without overloading small business servers. Gregory nodded, genuinely interested. Go on. For the next 20 minutes, I explained everything. The architecture, the testing phases, the challenges I'd overcome, the innovative solutions I'd created. I showed him the original wireframes I'd sketched, the client testimonials I'd collected, the roadmap I'd planned. Marcus sat frozen beside me, unable to contribute a single word. When I finished, the silence stretched for several long seconds. Gregory looked from me to Marcus and back again. So let me understand this correctly, he said slowly. Maya built the entire platform, secured the clients, and developed the growth strategy. It wasn't a question. Marcus jumped in quickly, his voice too loud. I provided the business framework, the strategy, the vision. Maya's just the technical implementation. Gregory's expression hardened. Just the technical implementation? He tapped the pitch deck. This says you founded DataWise. But it sounds like Maya did everything while you took credit. Marcus's face flushed red. That's not, it's more complicated than that. But Gregory was done with him. He turned to me, his voice firm and clear. Maya, who came up with the original concept for DataWise? My heart pounded. This was the moment. The choice between family loyalty and truth, between staying invisible and stepping into the light. I looked at Marcus, saw the desperation in his eyes, the silent plea. Then I thought about 2 years of sacrifice, of believing in something nobody else believed in. I did, I said quietly. I built DataWise. All of it. Alone. The room exploded into chaos. Marcus shot to his feet, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Maya, what are you doing? His voice cracked with panic and anger. We agreed I'd handle the business side. I stood too, surprising myself with my steadiness. We never agreed you'd claim you founded my company. You said you'd help me pitch, not steal everything I built. Gregory held up a hand. Gentleman and lady, I think we need some clarity here. He fixed Marcus with a cold stare. Did you contribute anything to the actual development of this platform? Any code, any design, any client acquisition? Marcus opened his mouth, closed it, and opened it again like a fish drowning in air. I provided guidance, business connections, strategic advice. Gregory cut him off. So that's a no. He gathered his papers and stood. I don't work with people who misrepresent themselves. This meeting is over. Marcus's face went from red to pale. Wait, you don't understand. But Gregory wasn't listening to Marcus anymore. He turned to me, his expression completely different now, curious and respectful. Maya, I'd like to schedule another meeting. Just you and me. Can you come back tomorrow at the same time? I blinked, shocked. You still want to meet? He smiled, a real smile. I want to talk to the actual founder, yes. What you've built is impressive. What you've accomplished on your own is even more impressive. He handed me his business card. Bring the real numbers tomorrow. No polished pitch deck, just you and your work. I took the card with trembling fingers. Okay. Thank you. Gregory nodded and walked out, leaving Marcus and me alone in the glass-walled room. The silence was deafening. My brother stood there, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume, his confident posture crumbling. Maya, he started, his voice low and dangerous. Do you have any idea what you just did? I packed my laptop slowly, deliberately, giving my hands something to do while my mind raced. I told the truth, I said without looking at him. Marcus moved closer, his voice rising. You humiliated me. You made me look like a liar in front of one of the most important investors in Portland. I finally met his eyes. You are a liar. You stole my work and claimed it as yours. He laughed, a harsh sound. I was trying to help you. You think Gregory Hartman takes meetings with nobody developers who work at marketing agencies? I got you in that room. The anger I'd buried for years suddenly surfaced, hot and sharp. You got yourself in that room using my work. There's a difference. Marcus stepped back, his expression shifting from anger to something colder. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Dad's going to hear about this. The whole family will. I shouldered my laptop bag. Good. Tell them the truth for once. I walked out of that building into the bright afternoon sun, and my hands didn't stop shaking until I reached my car. I sat behind the wheel for 10 minutes, replaying everything that had happened. Part of me couldn't believe I'd actually done it, that I'd stood up to Marcus in front of an investor. The other part of me felt sick with anxiety. What if Gregory changed his mind? What if Marcus poisoned my family against me? What if I'd just destroyed my only chance at real success? My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. You're going to regret this. Then another from my father. Come to the house tonight. We need to talk. I drove home instead, where Claire was making dinner. She took one look at my face and poured me a large glass of wine. I told her everything. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. Then she raised her glass. To finally being seen, she said. We clinked glasses, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the real battle was just beginning. Dinner at my parents' house that evening was exactly as terrible as I expected. I arrived at 7 to find Marcus already there, along with my mother, who looked at me like I'd committed murder. My father sat at the head of the table, his expression grim. Sit down, Maya, he said. I sat, my stomach in knots. Nobody offered me food. My father folded his hands on the table. Marcus told us what happened today. I want to hear your side. I explained everything, from Marcus asking for my research to him presenting it as his own work. My mother interrupted halfway through. He was trying to help you. You're too inexperienced to handle investors on your own. The dismissal in her voice was automatic, reflexive. My father nodded. Marcus has the business experience you lack. This could have been good for both of you. I looked at Marcus, who sat there with a perfect expression of wounded betrayal. He told the investor he founded DataWise, I said. That's not helping. That's stealing. My father's expression hardened. Don't be dramatic. Family works together. What's his is yours. What's yours is his. I felt something break inside me, some last thread of hope I'd been holding on to. So, if I build something from nothing, Marcus can just take it? That's how family works. My mother sighed like I was being purposely difficult. You're being selfish, Maya. Your brother opened a door for you. The least you could do is show some gratitude. Gratitude.
For theft.
For lies. For 26 years of being invisible until my work became valuable enough to steal. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I have a meeting with Gregory Hartman tomorrow.
Just me.
He wants to discuss investing in DataWise, my company. Marcus shot to his feet. If you take that meeting without me, you're out of this family. The threat hung in the air, heavy and final. My parents didn't contradict him. They sat there, silent, letting his ultimatum stand. I looked at each of them, these people who shared my blood, but had never really seen me. Then I guess I'm out, I said quietly. My mother gasped. Maya, don't be ridiculous. But I was already walking toward the door. My father called after me, his voice hard. If you walk out that door, don't expect us to be here when this fails. And it will fail. I paused at the threshold, my hand on the doorknob. Part of me wanted to turn around, to apologize, to make peace. That's what the old Maya would have done. But I wasn't her anymore. Thanks for finally telling me the truth, I said. You never believed in me. At least now we're all being honest about it. I walked out into the night, got in my car, and drove away. I didn't cry until I was safely back in my apartment, and when I did, they weren't sad tears. They were the tears that come when you finally stop trying to earn love from people who were never going to give it. The next morning, I met Gregory Hartman alone. This time, I brought the real DataWise, unpolished and honest. I showed him my original sketches, my client contracts, my bank statements proving every dollar I'd scraped together. I told him about building the platform while working full-time, about the nights I'd survived on coffee and determination. I didn't try to impress him. I just told him the truth. When I finished, Gregory leaned back in his chair. How much are you looking for? I told him my number, lower than Marcus would have asked for because I was terrified of seeming greedy. Gregory smiled. I'll give you double that for 20% equity. But only if you promise me something. I waited, barely breathing. Don't let anyone take credit for your work again. Not family, not partners, not anyone. This is yours. Own it. I signed the term sheet right there, my hand shaking so badly I could barely write my name. Maya Reeves, founder and CEO of DataWise. 6 months later, DataWise had 47 paying clients and a growing waitlist. I'd hired 3 employees, including a brilliant developer named Keisha, who reminded me of myself at 22. Gregory introduced me to other founders, helped me navigate growth challenges, and never once tried to take credit for my success. My family didn't call. Not when the local business journal featured DataWise in their startups to watch list. Not when I moved into a real office space. Not when I paid off my student loans 3 years ahead of schedule. Marcus sent one email asking if there was still room for him in the company. I deleted it without responding. Claire threw me a celebration dinner when we hit 50 clients. Remember when you thought standing up to Marcus would ruin everything? She asked, raising her glass. I looked around at my small team, my growing company, my life built on truth instead of invisible labor. Best decision I ever made, I said. And I meant it. Last week, I got an invitation to speak at a tech conference about building businesses as a solo founder. As I stood backstage, waiting to go on, I thought about that conference room 6 months ago, sitting silently while Marcus stole my voice. I thought about all the years I'd spent being invisible, believing that's what I deserved. The moderator called my name. I walked onto that stage, alone but not lonely, and looked out at hundreds of faces. My name is Maya Reeves, I began, and I'm the founder of DataWise. No qualifiers, no apologies, just the truth. After my talk, a young woman approached me, nervous and excited. I've been working on an app, she said quietly. but my boyfriend wants to pitch it to his investors. He says I'm not ready. I looked at her, saw myself reflected in her uncertain eyes. It's your work, I said firmly. Don't let anyone make it theirs. She nodded, something shifting in her expression. I handed her my card. Call me if you need help. Because that's what real support looks like. Not stealing someone's work, but helping them own it. Not making them invisible, but shining a light on what they've built. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it. And now, finally, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Seen, heard, and credited for the work that was always mine.